Hello, all you beautiful people out there in internet land. This is Danielle Young, main priestess, psychic reader, and tour guide, as well as
Female gamer.
there are women out there who game. Oh no! Oh goodness. Yes, there are, and I happen to be a gamer, a pagan gamer, and it's funny, but you can find pagan and spiritual themes in many different game genres. Starting, of course, with the obvious fantasy games. We have Dungeons and Dragons, where you're fighting off dragons and dealing with gods and goddesses and other magical beings, to some games you might think about. The Final Fantasy series, for example, in which you have various heroes going off to save the world for various reasons. The one that comes to mind with the strongest pagan theming, strangely overlaid with Christian theming, is Final Fantasy VII. And that is because they believe in Final Fantasy VII, you're playing a character who's living in a world where essentially they're sucking the lifeblood out of the planet, and the planet itself is sentient, and it is not happy about this. On top of this, you have this megalomaniac called Sephiroth. If that word sounds familiar, it's because it comes from Hebrew culture, and the Sephirot of the Kabbalah is trying to basically turn the earth into a big ball of meteor, so it can go flying through the universe, smacking into things. And we don't really want that, because that means everyone in this planet would die. One of the characters in your party is a healer by the name of Eris Gainsborough, and she ends up praying to the planet and sacrificing herself to further the team's goals. In the movie that was made after the game came out, Advent Children, she's been in fact elevated to the status of a goddess. In one of the songs in which her image is overlaid with, the lyrics go, Sol dea fatum novit, only the goddess knows fate. And so it's very interesting that this character who is a martyr eventually reaches god status, or goddess status in this case. And it is her healing powers that eventually save everyone from this disease called geostigma that has been plaguing people ever since the defeat of Sephiroth 2 years before. Now, from the obvious, we go to something a little more subtle. A game also out of Japan called Metal Gear Solid 3. It's the third entry into the Metal Gear Solid series, which is itself an entry into the overall Metal Gear series, which talks about war and how nuclear holocaust is a bad thing. And apologies for the lights, they seem to be flickering on and off. We're having a storm here today, and the lighting is kind of reflecting that. But in Metal Gear Solid 3, you deal with the Cobra unit, and each of the members of this unit has a different code name based on an emotion. And they all have these very strange powers, from the Fury, who wields a flamethrower to burn down the world, to the Fear, who is double-jointed and uses poisons to try and take you out, to the Pain, who is covered in bees, quite literally, to the End, who is a sniper who takes you out non-lethally, to the most famous, the Sorrow. And the Sorrow is a spirit medium, and it is his job to teach you the sorrow of those whose lives you've ended. And it can get very gruesome when you visit the Sorrow in his mystical river. You later realize this river is a representation of the afterlife, as the Sorrow was killed 2 years prior to the game by his beloved. In fact, he gave up his life to protect his family, which is very touching. But even as a spirit, Sorrow says, make no mistake, the dead are not silent. And he has always spoken as a voice for the dead, and he's actually a very helpful character outside this battle. He holds up little chalkboards every now and then with timers and various substances. A code number that actually allows you to escape from a jail cell you're locked in. So, all in all, he's a very helpful spirit. And then the third entry into pagan gaming I want to talk about seems very far out there. Is a game by an American company called BioWare. And the game in question is Mass Effect 2, which is the second entry and sequel in the Mass Effect series. It's a sequel to Mass Effect, where you had to save the entire galaxy from these spaceship-like aliens called the Reapers, who wanted to destroy the galaxy. Now in Mass Effect 2, the Reapers have come back and they're kind of kidnapping humankind for their own devious purposes. And you have to recruit various aliens of various races, from the Asari, which are blue-skinned females who reproduced by mind melding with people, to the Turians, which are, I wouldn't exactly call them insects, but they're very crab-like race, to the Solarians, who are a very scientifically minded race, the Quarians, who are very tech-oriented, and then you meet a Drell assassin by the name of Thane Krios, and the Drell is a reptilian species, and you expect these people to be very, very violent, but you first meet him after he's performed an assassination, and he actually prays over the body of the deceased. He says he's not praying for the person in question, he's actually praying for himself, to his pantheon of gods and goddesses. And in fact, one of the gods he prays to is a god of hunting. Let me just, I think it's Amunkira, I believe it is. Lord Amunkira, Lord of Hunters, grant that my hands be steady, my aim be true, and should the worst come to pass, grant me forgiveness. And this is a beautiful little prayer that he says during a battle before he goes and shoots people. He also prays to a mother goddess and a couple of other gods and goddesses along the way. So it was very interesting to see this sort of alien species fully developed with their own polytheistic tendencies. And while this certainly doesn't cover the whole scope of gaming and its and pagan gaming, it certainly gives a little sample. So I thank you for joining me this evening and listening to my little spiel on pagan gaming, and good night and blessed be to you all.